we decided there was something to do up there. So we walked from where we were, which is close to San Pablo Park in Berkeley, down to 9th Street, and we got the commute train going north, not toward the bay, but going north. And you came up Solano Avenue. And I remember looking at the stores, and I remember a lot of vacant lots on Solano Avenue. But that was something very special. The other thing that was, and because that was a train, if you wanted to get here, or even beyond it to El Cerrito, which is my family had to do, because if you got to Fairmont, you went up to the cemetery for at least once a year on Memorial Day. But you got on a streetcar because that's what was on San Pablo. There were no buses yet. It was all streetcars. How many of you remember the streetcars? All of you remember the streetcars. That was the way it was. And we didn't have if you had an automobile and wanted to get to San Francisco, you could go on the auto ferry. But it was 1938, before the bridges were built. And then at that time, we could get to San Francisco on a train. That's enough. Thank you.
Well, I was going to mention the red trains because my folks never had a car, and we used to take the red train to get to the Oakland Mall at the foot of 7th Street, and then we'd transfer and take another red train and get up to downtown Oakland. But the big thing for me when I was a little kid was to go down and ride the ferry boats, especially if I was riding the one my dad was driving. And so that was a big thrill. And in the old days, we had lots of streetcars and the red trains, and they weren't very fast, but there was one every few minutes. And transportation was good around town. And if you missed one streetcar, there was another one a few minutes behind, and they were very inexpensive. I wish we had that today.
Your father worked for the ferry. Could you just say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, my dad was first mate on the ferry boats, and he usually steered the boat while the captain just stood around. And because I remember riding in the wheelhouse, and the captain said, "Okay, John, take her to San Francisco." And I said, "Wow." My dad was steering this thing. And, you know, in those days, those ferry boats, I think in all the years that San Francisco had the ferries, they only had maybe one accident. And they went every day, rain or shine, whether it was sunny or foggy. And they had no radar, no radios, no telephones. All they had was a compass. And they knew where they were going. And they listened to in the foggy weather, they listened to the bellboys out in the bay, and they knew which buoy sounded how many bells or how many whistles. They knew exactly where they were. It was really a very safe mode of transportation, and those guys really knew what they were doing. And
Can you describe your dad going to work, coming back? How did he get to work?
He went down and got on the red train and went down to the mall.
Early in the morning?
Oh, well, it depended what shift he was on.
He walked to the red train.
He'd walk down to the red train and down below San Pablo Avenue and ride down to the foot of 7th Street in Oakland and get on the boat. The foot of 7th Street is where all the intercontinental trains ended. So if you took the train from Chicago to San Francisco, it ended in Oakland. And then you had to get on the ferry boat to go across to the ferry building in San Francisco. And the ferry boats also carried mail and packages. They carried freight over too. From the Oakland Mall to the ferry building.
And you could stop, those of you who've been here for a while, obviously, will remember taking at least the key system down to Oakland and then walking to the old Oakland Lakes ballpark. No? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because it was right there. And then the double header days when they do one game in San Francisco and one game in Oakland. And you could watch it. The first game was in Oakland. You'd watch that game and then you detach the train across and you watch it. It was Seals Park. I can't remember. No. I'm playing. Now, I'm hearing Ray may be able to add something to this too, so Bill, go ahead.
Ray. Well, I was just remember going to Treasure Island to the World's Fair. My older two sisters were working there, and we took the train up and the train over to Treasure Island. And I know that I was born and raised in Richmond Annex, and we drove to pick up the train in a 36 Ford, and I was sitting in the back. You know, there was 8 of us kids, and that we had the rumble seat open and in the back, and all of us crammed into the 36 Ford so we could go across the ferry. I mean, go across the bridge. But my grandfather owned a slaughterhouse down here on 2nd Street in Berkeley. And my dad used to drive a team of mules across the ferry to San Francisco Butchertown. And that used to be a very exciting place. And when he got his truck in 1919, he didn't have to mess with the mules anymore.
How many of you know what a rumble seat was? Oh, yeah. You know, I just wanted, we just tossed that off. Rumble seat, oh, yeah, right. Okay, a rumble seat was usually had to be a coupe. And a two-door car, two-door. And the coupe would come down like this, and you have the trunk. And instead of having the trunk, it opened in effect backwards. And you were actually opening the windiest could be. Probably totally unsafe thinking about it, especially for kids with you hanging out and it was fun. They made convertible rumble seats too, didn't they? I know coupes they made rumble seats. No, I'm just thinking what I saw.
Yeah, well, anyway, I can remember to relate to the rumble seat car because I had a 1932 Chrysler there that had a rumble seat. But I'd like to get on to that route that Bill was talking about is when we had the coming out from Oakland. I was born and raised in Oakland. I came out to Albany in 1951 to join the fire department. But the route that I'd take from there was that my car would come on the old freeway, which was we called the East Shore freeway, but it wasn't a freeway, it was just a road. And remember, as I left Oakland, we would go into Emeryville. And if anybody remembers driving that road, you remember the smell. When you went through there, if you had a rumble seat, you would close it down because that odor. But then as you get out, left Emeryville, you got into Berkeley, and then we got into Albany to come on in. I don't want to get off of the subject of transportation, but I'm going to use a couple of my minutes to relate to my coming into Albany. I came in 1951 for an interview. Pardon? Oh, excuse me. But I remember coming out to the fire station and had an interview with Chief Pimentel. And at that meeting was Captain Varney and Captain Vercelli and a couple other officers. But they told me that if I wanted to come to work here, I had to move within the city. We had a residency requirement at that time. So I went back home to my wife, and I told her, I said, well, I've got an opportunity to go to Albany, but we're going to have to move. So she agreed, so I came out. When I came out, in Oakland, I was renting an apartment for $25 a month, and it was a 2-bedroom, really nice flat. Well, when I came out, this was in August the 6th, 1951. I rented an apartment at 1075 Washington, which is an apartment right